Very excited to talk about producing video series and podcasts. Today we're gonna introduce the HubSpot community as one of the ways that we're gonna interact together. I'll share in a second how we're gonna do it. If you haven't connected with the HubSpot community actually has a whole array of different places and groups. We are now running the video marketing study group. And you can see here, there's many study groups. So the video marketing study group which I'll share the link in a second. You can actually interact with us. We will respond to your questions. If you have questions about video marketing, as you can see, there's a lot of engagement here. There's about 83 members already. You can become a member to this community. We'll keep you updated with things, but we'll also use this today as the activity for the workshop, in the middle of the workshop. And then at the end, you can, of course, you can ask questions through the chat, but also we will allow you to actually ask questions later on. We have a post that is a Q&A, and you can actually ask questions today there, tomorrow, or in 3 months about these things, and we'll be more than happy to answer those questions for you. So for everybody that is in the workshop, if you have questions later, you can always email us, of course, but this is a great way to interact with us through the video marketing study group at the HubSpot community. And also we'll run the activity. Now, if you're watching this as a recording later on, this is still something that we will continue to monitor. So if you watch this in 3 months from the date that we are doing this event, you can still do the activity. We'll still give you feedback, and you can still ask questions through the HubSpot community links. So we'll share those links in a second in there, so you can do the activities. If you go to the chat pane, I'll share those links there in a second. If you're not part of the HubSpot community, it's going to ask you to log on with your HubSpot account, pretty much the same way you did to actually log on to this workshop. But if you don't have a HubSpot account, that's very easy to do. You can create. Most of you do, but if you need to create your own free HubSpot account, this is the link that I'm sharing right there. You can create a free HubSpot account there, and then use that account to log on to the HubSpot community to interact with the whole community, and also be part of our video marketing study group to interact for this workshop and many other things. If you have any questions about video or video marketing, we're going to be more than happy to help you with those. Hi, Derek from Prague. Oh my gosh, I was there 4 years ago. Beautiful, beautiful place. Thank you for joining today. And David, thank you for joining from New Zealand. This is awesome. We have people from all over the world. Very, very excited. So let's start the workshop. Like I said before, today we're gonna go through the workshop. We're gonna have some activities through the HubSpot community. This is what the HubSpot community looks like. You can log on to our video marketing study group, but also today we're gonna have an activity that we're gonna do. We're gonna give you 5 minutes to complete this activity in the HubSpot community while we do the workshop. And give you feedback later on. But also, we allow you to do Q&A afterwards if you have any questions through the HubSpot community and the video marketing study group. So let's get this on the road. I see 14 people already connected. So let's get started. I have Isabella and Aaron. I'll introduce everybody in a second. But very excited today to talk about producing video series and podcasts for Brand Affinity Marketing. So we talked a little bit about the community. Like I said, we're going to interact today through the community, but also I totally recommend you being part of the HubSpot community because there's many study groups. You can ask all kinds of questions, technical questions, strategy questions. There's a whole community around HubSpot that will help you with anything you need, on top of all the support you get from HubSpot directly. I'm Gabriel Marguglio. I'm the CEO of Nextiny. I'm a family man. I have an awesome wife who's also my partner in the business, and 4 amazing kids. One going to college next month. So yeah, they're growing. It's crazy. I got really into gardening during the pandemic, and we're raising butterflies. Actually, this week we released 38 new butterflies, new monarch butterflies into the world. So that was pretty cool. I'm a drummer, and I collect typewriters. These are the real thing. I have too many. But let me introduce, or let themselves introduce right here. This is Isabella.
Hi, everybody. I'm Isabella. I'm the video marketing manager here at Nextiny. Originally from Miami. I recently completed my master's in writing for film and television, which was really exciting. And as you can see, I'm a dog mom. I have one just over my shoulder. He wanted to be in the hug. Couldn't, stop him. But yeah, nice to meet everybody.
All right. My name's Aaron. I'm a multimedia specialist here at Nextiny. And a few fun facts. I love to travel. Now, with the pandemic, obviously that's slowed down a bit, but another Yogo Bonito addict. So it translates directly from Portuguese to the beautiful game, which is soccer. And I am a proud new dog parent.
Awesome. So today we're going to talk about why video. Of course, everybody is here for a reason. And if you're watching this, you already know that you want to do video. But also why episodic video? Why get into this, consistency of doing a podcast or a video series or something episodic that will go out every week or every month? We'll talk about that and some statistics of it. How to get started, selecting your topic, defining your episode, getting your team involved, and getting all the different things, hardware, software, and all the things ready to go. But also how to promote it, how to measure success, and all these other things that are important for an episodic video series or podcast. We're going to talk a little bit specifically about podcast production, how to host your video series or podcast, and how to optimize it over time. Because that's, again, there's two main themes you're going to hear today. One is consistency. The more you do this, the better it gets. And two is optimization and making it better over time. So today, first of all, we're going to talk about why video. This is becoming an old, very old slide, but I love it. Brian Halligan, we went to Inbound in 2016, again, a long time ago. And he said, stop looking for a blogger, start looking for a videographer. That's when we really invested and shifted our agency into video and podcast, but specifically video production and video promotions and video marketing. And it's been an incredible journey since then. One of the many things that video has is that the play button is the most compelling call to action of the web. Once you see that, you want to watch it, want to engage with video. It is the highest growing and the best engagement you can get on social media, on emails, on landing pages, on website pages. It helps on pretty much everything. Funny story. Don't put the play button on top of your face. That's not a good idea. But that's why we post that picture, funny picture. 81% of businesses use video as a marketing tool. We're going to share some stats here. These are things that all of you already know, but just as a refresher, and some of these are even old and they're even bigger nowadays, but video gets 3 times the engagement as images on social. Video gets 2 times the engagement versus link posts on social media. People watch 1.5 hours of video a day on average. With the pandemic, I anticipate that being a lot higher. But these are some updated numbers from 2021. Wistia put together. Wistia is a video marketing and video hosting software that we use in conjunction with HubSpot and integrates beautifully into HubSpot. And Wistia put together some numbers from last year and this year. Video uploaded to Wistia, as you can see, is growing incredibly. 85%, 81% growth last year compared to 2019. Minutes of video watched also 84% up. So we're talking about millions and millions of users here. A huge analysis on what they see. Again, billions of minutes. We're talking about 12 billion minutes. So huge numbers here that show the trend going up. Some specifics about video that we've seen from customers, old customers, current customers, and we continue to see. We not only analyze, as you can see, this is Wistia, and this is a data box report that is bringing data from HubSpot and Wistia and everything. You can analyze how leads are engaging with video and how many leads watch video, how many leads actually didn't watch video, and how many customers closed that watch versus the ones that didn't. So one of the important metrics that we've been following is customers that watch video. How much, what's the percentage of closing customers versus customers that haven't watched video? And yes, you can see it's 20 in this case study that we put together is 20% versus 7%. So leads that watch video close at 20% into customers, when leads that didn't watch video close at 7%. So we like to not only analyze per video and things like that, but also what's the impact of video on the account. We've seen, analyzing all the different clients, we've seen 2 times to 9 times the closing rate when video is part of the journey. So of course, video is huge. Everybody knows they need to do video and more video more than ever. Why episodic video? First of all, episodic video solves the content problem. The content problem is companies trying to generate content on a regular basis because they want to grow on Google, they want to have better SEO, they want to educate their audiences, they want to engage with their audiences, attract the right people. If you create a consistent video series, podcast series, you'll have a lot of content you can create from that. You can actually turn that video into a blog and make it grow from there. Now, we talked about Brand Affinity. This is how to create video series and podcasts for Brand Affinity. What is Brand Affinity? Well, Brand Affinity is the level of trust between the consumer and the business. So how do you increase that, right? How do you make people like you more, make people engage with you more, and spend more time with your brand? This is a graphic we put together on how video series and podcasts and consistent efforts like these that have high engagement and have a human connection, an emotional connection like video does and sound does, voice, with a strategy and consistency. And when you produce, promote, and analyze and get better over time, that emotional connection creates that human connection that helps Brand Affinity. So as long as you see these as long-term strategies and not try to analyze what happened on the 3rd episode, we always see positive movement. And we'll talk a little bit about how to measure and what to measure also. There's a positive impact, not only on marketing, but on sales, customer service, HR efforts, and more. Of course, it's harder than ever right now to get people from SEO efforts from Google. It's harder than ever to get people from social media with so much noise. So it's great when you can create a consistent effort that people come, that people subscribe, and this helps you get more people to identify themselves on your website that are engaging with your brand, that like your brand, and that want to engage more with your brand. Therefore, you're owning your audience instead of renting it. If you pay ads on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, you're renting audiences, and you have to keep paying in order to engage with those. If you build your own list of emails, that is very, very powerful for a brand. And of course, there's the power of consistency. It's incredible. If you're going to do these efforts, we totally recommend making sure that you see this as a long-term. Your audience will grow, they expect new videos, and you'll build micro audiences. Don't focus so much on trying to do this for everybody or trying to attract millions of people. The viral videos of the world, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about creating something that your specific audience that you decided is important for your brand, and you really want to engage, and you really want to attract, and you want them to talk about you. Those people are engaged and really want to grow with you.
All right, so I'll take over from here. Let's go ahead and talk about how to get started with all these videos. All right, so talking about getting started with episodic content, there's a lot into going into the beginning of it. So first thing you want to do is select a theme or topic for your series. Now, we're going to dive in a little bit deeper into each of these as we go through, but I'm going to go through the list here. You want to define the episode content. So that's going to be your setting, your structure, and the overall tone of the videos. You want to make sure you get your team involved. Obviously, that's inclusivity, and everyone's going to feel involved. They're going to bring something new to the table. So you want to make sure that everyone on the team does get involved. Also consider your branding and your publishing. So obviously, that just goes back to making sure that everything kind of feels that nice cohesion together. You want to arrange for the video production and planning. So that's going to be thinking about the equipment that you need to use, as well as your schedule and how you're going to move forward with the videos. You want to generate additional content from that. So as you create these videos, you're able to pull additional content like blogging and other forms of content from that. And then lastly, continuously to promote and optimize these videos. So you don't want to just set it and forget it. You want to always go back, look what you can optimize, and look at the analytics to see how you can improve each video. The first thing is selecting a theme or topic for your series. Obviously, this is critical. You are the expert in something, so make sure you select that. Just focus on what you're good at. You want to define that ideal audience as well. So you want to find that micro audience that you're speaking to and then build upon that. So think about the questions that maybe your sales team gets, maybe start creating FAQ videos, just tackling those overall questions that you get all the time. And that'll be a really good place to start. But the biggest thing is setting clear expectations for your show and make sure that you're inspirational, make sure you're educational or ideally entertaining. Make sure you hit the tone of what you're trying to achieve. Now, lastly, you want to define your show's positioning statement. So we have a show called Coffee Talks. If you see there on the left side, there's a graphic. We connect with people who blank, but blank by blank. So with Coffee Talks, it's we connect with people who are interested in learning more about marketing, but they are tired of trying to figure it out all by themselves by showcasing thought leaders that share their experience in a fun, conversational way. And Gabriel's sliding in our Coffee Talks branding here. So you can see this is our Wistia channel, and this is our Coffee Talks brand. We have each video kind of in a grid style as he scrolls. So just making sure that you really define what you're trying to achieve and then stick to that consistency. All right, and from that last slide, just building upon that, kind of defining each of those. The audience obviously is going to be the group of people who identify as part of that subculture or niche you're looking to attract. Your insight is going to be that emotional tension between the desire and outcome for that target audience. And then lastly, your theme is that proposition which promotes a resolution to the insight. All right, so we have an activity now. As Gabriel mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, if you go over to the HubSpot video marketing group, and the link is in the chat, you'll see an activity. And what we're looking for is your show idea. So we want to go ahead and have you lay out that mission statement. We connect with people who blank, but blank by blank. So if you could go over to that blog post and just go ahead and fill that out, we'll give a next 5 minutes or so to do that. And then we will provide feedback afterwards and throughout the community as well. So if you stay engaged with us, we'll go ahead and make sure we engage with you back.
And make sure you go to the community, log on. If you click on that link for the activity, we'll give you 5 minutes to connect and start thinking about these things, and then post it. We'll give you feedback and you can ask more questions there later. Again, this might be a show you're already running or an idea that you might be thinking of. We'll give you feedback on that idea and continue the conversation from there. Let us know if you have any questions or issues connecting to the community or logging on to the community. We'll definitely help you in the chat pane. We'll give you four more minutes to go through this.
All right, so let's go ahead and get continued here. The next step in the video series is going to be defining your episode concept. So how do you want your idea conveyed to your audience? Do you want to select that tone? So do you want to do more conversational based between two people? Do you want to do like a talk show where you have a host? Is it going to be more serious or more comedic? Really finding the overall tone of your video is crucial, and you want to make sure that you speak to that. Now, also, your setting is very important. You can see there the pictures on the left. That's our setting of Coffee Talk Season 2. That was pre-pandemic shoots. So as you can see, we have all of our lights and cameras set up. It's a really nice setting, and it's really important to decide whether you're going to stick to one setting or you're going to do something dynamic and move around. So always just identify that setting and move forward with that. And then if you're shooting in different settings, just make sure you have the right permits and clearance. This is just kind of a side note, but if you are on public land or something, just be aware that you may need a permit to shoot video in that location. Okay, so this is probably one of the biggest questions we get. How long should a video be? And the true answer is there is no one end all be all. Content is king. All the information should be the length of the video. And you're going to see in the next slide that there is a chart that we have that kind of reinforces that. But the biggest thing is, what does your audience need to know, and how can you help keep that messaging succinct and engaging? What is the nature of your episodes? So that's going to be more like interview versus promotional. And then your publishing intentions. Are you going to a social channel? Are you going to website? So that is a lot of different things you want to focus on when thinking about the length of the video. But again, these charts in this next slide here, that kind of just reinforces that content is speaking to that, because you can see all the different lengths of time uploaded, they're all increasing. So that's naturally because people are creating more video over time. But again, it's just because more people have more things to say. So if you have a lot to say, you have a lot of information to convey, don't be afraid to create a longer length video as long as it's very educational.
And to Aaron's point, you can see, and to this specific workshop that we're talking about, video series, these video episodes usually are longer than the traditional 2-minute video or 30-second social media video. So you can see that still, 5 to 30 minutes is one of the highest growth that they've seen, that Wistia seen last year. So.
Awesome. And now I'm going to hand it over to Isabella to continue.
Awesome. Thank you, Aaron. So just touching on what Aaron was talking about, one great part about making a video series for your company is that you can get the whole team involved. So try investing time into your own team to promote your brand. Pair your episode topics with the best person to say that message. That way you're naturally showcasing different team members, and they're speaking on what they know about the most. And remember, it's really crucial to get on the same page. Create a schedule that works for everyone and stick to it, just to ensure that everyone stays involved. So consider branding and publishing. View your series as its own brand. Meet with your creatives, determine the logo, the fonts, the colors, the style, and stick to it, and then learn from it over time. So over here on the left, you can see how our Coffee Talks logo has evolved over the years. In 2017, we had this like neon, very thin lettered vibe going on. We've kind of changed it since then. And I think now where we have it, that 2019 version is what we're still using, is a little closer also to the tone of the show. And ultimately that's what we were going for. And also determine where your series will live. So we use Wistia channels. We embed that onto our website, and then we use our social platforms to drive the promotions to the site as well. So just being really intentional about how you're using those promotion efforts. And just a note to make sure you can analyze wherever you decide to publish, so you can optimize over time. So if your video series is living on YouTube, let's say, you can still use YouTube analytics to be able to understand what's happening with the engagement of those videos. So branding, there's a lot of different ways that you can customize your series and really bring all those brand elements in together. You can create a custom intro and outro that matches your branding as well. Your logos, your colors, you want to keep really consistent with those. You can watermark or put a little bug, you can see in the top right there. Putting your logo on the video, overlaying it, keeping that branding consistent. And also themed thumbnails. That's especially really vital when it comes to somewhere. Sorry, my dog is doing his own thing. Especially vital when it comes to somewhere like YouTube, because if you have those consistent thumbnails, people are starting to recognize that. And it's a great way, again, to continue being really consistent and fluent with your branding. Okay, so arrange for video production and planning. That top left image might look a little overwhelming, but essentially those are all the elements that need to be organized when we're creating these video series. So we use Monday.com, that's our project management tool. And we wanted to just give you guys an idea of some of the things that would go into planning a series like this. So if you are using some sort of project management tool that you can collaborate with your teammates, some things to keep in mind would include episode title, episode notes or your script, if you're using a script, shoot date, video talent, video editors, production status, episode post date, a link to the finished video, which is a great way to also make your project management into kind of a library resource of resources. The equipment you're gonna need, because sometimes that might fluctuate. So your cameras, your lighting, your microphones. Determining the level of production. For example, one time we were creating about 5 series at the same time, all had very different needs as far as equipment and who was needed. You know, one was just Gabriel, it was a 1 take, 1 camera. The other one was just a drone. And of course, Coffee Talks is a little wider. We had more involved into it. So really making sure you're going to be consistent with that too. So you always have your equipment prepared for that as well. And also the shooting process, try to shoot several episodes ahead. This is very crucial as far as not ending up in a stressful bubble, feeling like you have to finish editing a video and pushing it out the next day. If you can shoot ahead of time, edit ahead of time, it really ends up helping your team. And it lets you be more intentional also with the promotion and publishing. So generating additional content, this is definitely one of the best things about making an episodic series, because it's not just the publish an episode and be done with it. Each episode can be used in multiple ways, and you can even regenerate older content. So each episode could be repurposed for new blogs, website pages, emails, social posts, podcasts, and of course for old content, refreshing or combining with older blogs, site pages, etc. So overall, great content generator. And then, of course, promote, review, optimize, repeat. We're going to go a little more into detail with this later in the presentation, but just to give you guys a bird's eye view of this, you want to pay attention to some key metrics, especially when you're looking at brand affinity marketing. So hours watched, subscribers, engagement, how are you connecting with your viewers? There could be a domino effect. You might be seeing that new traffic is bringing old videos back to life. And of course, for promotions, you know, give your series the right exposure. Be intentional about where you're publishing it and how you're driving your social promotions to it. Okay, so podcast production. So for podcast production, just a couple things to keep in mind. It's not entirely different from video production or strategy, but some things are a little different. So you're still going to be picking a hosting platform, and we'll show you guys an example of what that might look like. But essentially with podcasts, you're going to get an RSS URL or address rather. So wherever your podcast lives, it'll generate that RSS, and you can then distribute that into multiple channels. You'll need to find an editing software. You can either use a video editing software or strictly audio editing software. You want to optimize for SEO, and you want to still determine that episode structure and your promotion plan. So this is that image I was referring to. So for Coffee Talks and Martech Masters, our 2 series, we use Simplecast at the moment. And this is just a little snippet from that so you can get an understanding of what this might look like. It's pretty user-friendly amongst most platforms. So you have this RSS feed, and then you would distribute into the channels of your choosing, whether that's Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, etc. So podcast equipment. I have a photo on the next slide, but just to give a quick rundown, of course, you'll need those microphones, and you can either use a singular one with, sometimes they have a range that you can record multiple people at the same time. You can get multiple microphones, headphones, a pop filter to eliminate extra noise when you're speaking, a switcher if you're using multiple audio inputs, a swing mount, and a shock mount. So in the next photo or next slide, we can see, okay, perfect. So here you can see like a full podcast setup. It doesn't mean you need all of this. Again, for both Coffee Talks and Martech Masters, our 2 series, we actually just strip the audio from our video files and we just edit from there. But if you are doing an intentional podcast and that's how you're producing it, this is a great setup to have to really optimize your end episodes.
And one comment about stripping, just taking sound out of video. Not every podcast will work that way. It depends on what the podcast is about. If there's a high visual aspect of the video series, if you're showing how things are done on the screen with screen share, or if you're talking about videos that you're showing on the screen, then you're going to lose a lot of that experience in the podcast version of it. So you have to be careful and be aware of that when you create a podcast series. If it's going to be mainly podcast, or if it's going to be video and podcast, which we always recommend if possible, to either talk about what you're going to do or share the links on the blog so people can't interact with the same assets. Try to avoid that if possible. Make it just conversational if it's going to be mainly a podcast. But if you want both, make sure you address and say, you can find this video on the blog that's shared down below. So people that are listening, they can also go to the blog later or watch the video later or while they're doing it. Just remember that audiences will not engage with video, a blog, or podcasts the same way. When you're watching a video, your whole attention is connected with that video. You're not driving, you're not running, you're not in the treadmill. You are watching something, and most of the time, your full attention is going to that. That's a big commitment, number one. So if you do a video series, there better be something visual that helps with engagement. When someone engages with a podcast, they could be running, they could be driving, they could be doing anything. It's like having the radio in the background. Therefore, the audio needs to be engaging enough. And also, if you're talking about a lot of things that are visual, they might not have the ability to watch those things. So keep that in mind. And then try to bring this into a blog article or a website page where you can actually explain more, give them links. Do not just take the video, turn them into a sound into a podcast, and then turn the transcript into a blog. That's not added value. The value in the blog is going to be to send them links, to send them, extra resources, more about the guest speaker, kind of like digest the information and give them, some good assets that they can read. People prefer to read. Some people prefer to read instead of listen or watching, but also the transcript itself is not valuable.
That's an excellent point. And again, everything going back to being as intentional as possible. So absolutely, when we are recording those episodes, video and audio, we're making it a point to say, like, also addressing the people who might just be listening to this, really describing what we're talking about, where they can find it, etc. So editing software, some hosting platforms offer their own editing tools, but we wanted to list off a couple in case you guys do have access to these. And of course, if you have more questions or you want to throw it into the community, by all means, we'd love to talk more about it. So some would be GarageBand, Descript, Adobe Audition, and also, like I mentioned, Aaron and I actually create our podcast through our video editing program. So we edit the audio directly in Adobe Premiere or in Final Cut Pro.
Okay, so I'm going to take over now. So we're going to talk about episode video hosting and where we're going to live the videos. All right, so first off, Wistia channels. This is where we host all of our videos on. Wistia is a great platform. They have the channels experience. So this is a really cool feature. You have the full customization of a channel with your branding. So again, you can see on the left side, Gabriel pulled it in a little bit earlier. This is our Coffee Talks Wistia channel. and it has all of our branding. It has our logo. You can see we've created everything on here to make it as a one asset page. You can embed your video series directly on your website. So this channel is embeddable. You don't have to be redirected anywhere else. You can also stop your viewers from getting distracted, right? So if you've ever been on YouTube and you're watching a video, you always know that those related videos pop up from other channels. It's a little distracting. It's also leading you somewhere else. So this is going to stop your viewers from being distracted, and they're going to be fully engaged with your brand. You want to engage your audience with that TV quality-like experience. So this is just that Netflix style experience. You can see we have ours laid out in a grid style, but you can also do a carousel style that scrolls from left to right. This also allows you to collect your email addresses right from your channel. So you can add on something where they have to either subscribe to watch the video, or you can have them subscribe to just have them in the database. And then of course you can have Wistia and HubSpot linked to have everything follow back into your CRM. You can sync your subscribers to your CRM, just like I said, and then driving your more traffic to your website with the SEO optimized pages for each video.
And one little comment about Wistia channels is that you can use this for video series or podcasts. They actually host both types of media, and it looks amazing and it works amazing and the experience is great. And you can even combine, you can have videos and podcasts in the same channel. So that's a very good experience for people wherever they are. They can engage with the content through the Wistia channel.
Absolutely, yeah. And as we're just going to talk about that on the next slide here. So like Wistia, like G just said, Wistia is a podcast hosting platform. So you can combine those videos and audio files all together on one channel and make it look really nice and cohesive. But some other podcast hosting platforms would be something like Simplecast, Buzzsprout. There's a lot of them out there. So I would just research what is going to be the best option for you and then run forward with that. And then embed players on your website. So this is pretty important. Wistia Channels is available for that podcast format, but you can embed just the audio files on your website. So moving forward here, show optimization. So I'm going to dish this back to Gabriel and you can have it from there.
So we get this question a lot, which is how do you measure success on these efforts, right? Like, and the question is, when you say measure success, are you talking about metrics, which we can definitely do that? But are we also talking about brand affinity? And again, brand affinity increases with the time spent, people spending time with your brand, not with the number of people clicking or views or plays. Yes, you can measure those things. You can measure minutes watched and hours watched, which is one of the shifts that we've done with some of these efforts. Instead of measuring, video watches, video plays, or, percentage of engagement, which are very important metrics, it's also important to understand how much time people are spending with those efforts. So with video, if you use Wistia or any other video hosting platform like Vidyard or even YouTube or Vimeo, you will get some of these analytics where it says, how much time people are spending with the content, which is crucial. You can also measure, how your audience is becoming a subscriber or things like that. So yes, you can go deeper and say page views and say, engagement or click-through rate if there's call to actions on the video or the podcast. With the podcast side of things is a little more limited. I'll talk about that in a second. But more importantly, measuring success on these efforts should be taken as a long-term strategy and as a long-term activity, not hey, we posted three videos on our series. Where are the customers, right? I don't see any leads coming in. The sales team is anxious to see something. If you're seeing it that way, you're missing a huge opportunity. There's countless podcasts out there and video series that ended on episode 6 because people didn't believe in the long-term impact of it. And in order to see the long-term impact, you have to continue doing it. It is very possible that you're first episodes are never going to be seen by anybody, or you will have very low engagement on them because you're just starting. But as you continue to do this with that consistency and that optimization over time, we'll talk about some of those efforts in a second, you'll see it grow. You'll see more people coming back. But more than just seeing numbers on a report, one of the things you'll see is you'll hear people talking about it. You'll hear people talking about it when you don't ask about it. Not when you go to social media and you promote it and people are like, yes, I saw it. But you'll see people sharing it on social media when they're, recommending it to their peers or to their network. So you'll have you'll have sales and customer meetings where people will say, hey, I watched that video. I watched that episode of Coffee Talks the other day. And you're like, hold on, what? You watch Coffee Talks? How is this happening? And that is the most beautiful part of this effort, is when people start noticing and they see the value and they understand that you're creating something for them and they want to engage with it. So one of the things you need to do is learn from that engagement, learn from those numbers and those comments, and run surveys and ask questions and ask for ideas. What else do you want to learn? Again, you're building a micro audience. If you're doing it right, you'll be able to engage with those people and ask them questions. What do they want to see on the next episode or next season and things like that? One of the things we do is we break things into seasons, kind of like shows on TV. And that helps you optimize a lot of different things. You can see here, season 1 of Coffee Talks and season 2 of Coffee Talks with Jackie and I, the setting was better. There was more depth. This was all, the videographer's magic, Aaron and Isabella working on, okay, how can we take the quality to the next level, how to have a better set, but also make it more engaging and make it, maybe shorter and make it more specific. And let's ask 3 questions only. And all those little tweaks will help you optimize things. And you can see how, during seasons and after one season to the other one, we've seen this with every show we've done, that season 2, season 3, they are better than the last ones. Of course, there are many things you can do to optimize, but then you can optimize specific things like the video play rate. And there's some examples and things that you can do optimize, where it is on the page, or using Wistia channels like we talked about before, to create a better experience, and add chapters for long videos so people can click on the different sections of the video and things like that. There are some more resources here, but how to increase the video average engagement, make it shorter, or increase the value, or focus on 3 questions, or don't go crazy on responding 1 question for 15 minutes, right? So try to think about these things and go back and learn from the other episodes you've done. Of course, video conversion rate, if you add call to actions, adding call to actions at the beginning, at the end, testing them. Wistia allows you to do all these things, and in conjunction with HubSpot, you can track a lot. And then, of course, video SEO is you want to come up on Google when people are searching for those things. So think about those keywords you want to add on the title and the description of the video. That works for videos on Wistia that embed on your website, and it works for YouTube videos. If you put the right keywords and the right tags and the right description, you'll come up with when people are searching for those things. But if you add efforts like a video blog, then maybe the blog comes up on Google, and then that people watch the video or follow your series or your show from there. Of course, you can optimize podcasts. Podcasts are limited in the amount of information they give you. Mostly they give you downloads, which is an archaic number that nobody understands anymore, because nobody downloads a podcast. You're playing it directly on the platform, but it used to be that you would download the whole thing and then listen to it offline. That's how podcasts used to work. So we're still counting downloads, but when you work with platforms that are more advanced like Wistia, you can start seeing more engagement and things like that. But think about how you're limited, because some of the platforms like Spotify or Apple Podcasts or things like that, they don't give you that much information. They want to keep that information for themselves. So some of the other things you can track is if you embed this on a page, how many people go to that page, the time on site, and things like that. So do a combination of efforts. Now, what's cool about podcasts is you can also optimize for SEO, especially with titles and descriptions and things like that. And of course, we would recommend using Apple Podcasts first. That's usually the number one platform for podcasts, depending on the industry, but most of the time, Apple Podcasts is huge. And then Spotify, of course, for younger population. And then Google Podcasts, believe it or not, mainly because it comes up on the first page of Google. If you did a good job, this is a good example of, searching for the podcast name, or sometimes, video marketing podcast or MarTech podcast, you'll see that it comes up as on the search. So first of all, any questions? I know we are almost done with the workshop and everything we went through. You can share some of the questions on the chat pane if you have some questions right now. But also we want to share on the chat the other question, the other post we have on the HubSpot community to ask questions later. Or if you want to put questions in there for us to review later, that's the Q&A link that you can share. So any questions right now for everybody that's connected with us live. Now, if you're not connected live, you're watching this recording because we send it to you, you register, or you're watching this later on YouTube, you can go back to the HubSpot community in the video marketing study group, and we have a Q&A section there where we can answer all your questions. You can do the activity that we did at the beginning of the workshop, and you can leave your questions no matter when that is happening later in the HubSpot community. Let's see if you have any questions here. Like I said, I would recommend you connecting with the HubSpot community, becoming a member. We can answer all your questions there about video marketing, video series, podcasting, production, promotions, but also that's another place that we're going to be promoting these events and engaging with different ways to answer your questions and give you ideas and bounce ideas with you. One of the things we did today was the activity. If you didn't share it in there in the video marketing study group. And then also, if you want to put your questions in the Q&A section, we'll go there too. Guys, anything else you want to add, Aaron, Isabella?
I think the only thing I would add is just touching on what you were saying, even if it comes down to the equipment you're using, the software, if you have specific questions about those, we're happy to jump into the community and answer any questions you have about, those specific topics.
Yeah, that sounds great. Nothing else from me. Just, join the community and we'll be engaged.
Yeah, thank you everybody for connecting today. And again, like I said, if you are connected today, or if you want to connect later, these are many ways that you can connect with us. Our website, nextinymarketing.com, our Twitter account, LinkedIn, but also we run the Sarasota HubSpot user group where we have more HubSpot related. We just did a HubSpot CRM workshop and one about content marketing a couple months ago, but also the Video Hub, which is where you're engaging with us right now. Where we are going to have some events in September also. And then join the video marketing study group in the HubSpot community and engage with us about this workshop and with other things, any questions you may have about video or video marketing. Thanks again, everybody, for joining today. And let's stay connected, okay? Take care. Have a good one.